Alright, lads, let's talk about the most unbreakable Imperial Guard regiment that is around. Mordian Iron Guard. Woohoo! After the... So the Mordian Iron Guard, what are they really good at? Now, the thing is with the Mordian Iron Guard is that they do not break. They specialize in this, in fact. They specialize in the act of harsh discipline. So, when it comes to military tactics, what would they be best suited for? Arguably, the best spot that you could probably put them in would actually be the parts that require the best discipline because of such a complex machinery that they have to work. So, if you have a certain gun that requires you to load it in a very specific way or else it will not fire, if you need them to operate a gun like that, these guys are perfect. Because the regular Iron Guards don't have the discipline to actually sit there on their off-duty hours and study their guns and learn how to reload it better, learn how to clean it better. No, they don't do that. Mordian Iron Guards, on the other hand, do that. They have to spend countless hours looking at their equipment, making sure it's clean inside and out. Then they have to make sure they know how to load it appropriately. Then they have to make sure they can fire it accurately. Then they have to make sure they can fire it on time with the rest of the regiment. This is a regiment that is built on the discipline. And that's something that I think is very fascinating. So if you're fighting against like 6 tanks, just know those tanks are all going to fire at the same time. They're all going to fire at the same time. They're going to be reloaded at the same time. And they're going to be reloaded far quicker than any other regiment because they have the correct discipline and they've been training this day in, day out, so they know the inside and out of their equipment when it comes to reloading. Again, I probably said reloading like 6 times here, but that's just emphasis on the whole discipline thing. We see this a lot in today's military where they have you break down your gun and then rebuild it back together over and over and over again in boot camp to the point that you get so fast at it that you get it done in like a second. Whereas if you go into like another military where they only have you do it once or twice, well, you're going to be slow. You're going to be very fucking slow at doing this. Mordian take that way into the extreme where they go, all right, not only can you break your gun down and rebuild it in a second, we're also going to make you do this for every other piece of equipment that you come across. Unload, reload, unload, reload, unload, reload. I want to see that artillery battery get reloaded faster and faster and faster till it is perfect 30-second reload. Come on, let's go. Boom, boom. And then you just see them loading in these very intricate and complex machineries with devastating speed and firepower. Now, that being said, their equipment definitely isn't good for most engagements, as you can see. So, the blue outfit, I know everyone's going to fucking talk about it. The blue outfit is actually not an outfit, it is actually armor. That is something that I find most interesting. So the armor here is a normal flak vest, and the flak vest itself is actually pretty fucking durable. But my favorite thing is that they actually come with 5 doses of a stimulant. Now, the stimulant essentially prolongs your combat effectiveness. It means that you can keep going and going. It's almost like an adrenaline shot. But the thing is that these guys come with an injector. Some Imperial Guard regiments do not do this at all, because why would they need to? But these guys, they're able to go for days of constant fighting and just use all 5 doses of their stim. And finally, when the 5th dose wears off, they're completely combat ineffective because the human body can only take so much, even with drugs. Now that's fucking impressive, I ain't gonna lie. Here they are, fighting demons, fighting fucking orcs, fighting foes that are way superior to humanity and would outright drive your mind into insanity. But these guys are able to wade through it through their harsh discipline, but then they're able to inject themselves with stim so that way they can keep fighting and fighting and fighting. Something that I find really funny with this Mordian Guard, actually, is that they're so well disciplined that you'll never see their uniforms mucked up. So what could happen is they could be trapped behind enemy lines, and they could be stuck there for a month. Well, by the time you get to them, their uniforms are still pristine. They're still nicely trimmed, no scratches on it, no fucking mud on it, nothing. They are all about the order and discipline of the Imperial. Now, this has led to a lot of interesting controversies. Like, there's an Imperial Guard regiment that upholds that faith is what makes you have such good discipline, and that without faith, you will not be able to do much of anything, especially when there's hordes of enemies barreling down your hallways and barreling into your barracks when you're unprotected. Mordia, though, is the opposite of that. They don't need faith. They just need discipline. They just need harsh regiment, harsh training, and it's actually funny enough is that these guys are used mostly to police people. So they're kind of like an Adeptus Arbites unit. But here's the issue. They come from a world known as Mordia. And on their world is kind of like a death world in my opinion. It's a very interesting world. Essentially, it is about 1/10 the size of Earth, so it's really fucking small. But more interestingly enough, is that it's stuck in its orbit. So only one side faces the sun and only one side faces out. Now the side that faces out is permanently dark, and that's where all the humans live because it's a lot easier to live somewhere that's negative 1,000 degrees versus living somewhere that is like over 1,000 degrees. Either way, this is where all the people live. And it is fucking cramped. It sucks. There's nothing on the planet that's really providing any sort of work or wealth besides, I guess, farming and, well, energy production. But even then, the energy that they could produce is very lackluster compared to what other worlds could produce. So there's not a lot of wealth to share around here on this world. So this creates a huge division between the classes where the rich stay rich because all the things that make them rich are from outside the planet, and all the things that all the other people do, which is the billions of people who live on the world, they just get scraps. They don't really have much of anything in the source of wealth or money to really do anything with their lives. Now, something that's very interesting is that this sort of division in classes and the fact that there is no real opportunity to get up in the ranks, you would think that the Mordian Iron Guard would not care to really serve in the rich people's place. Well, here's what the Mordian does. The people up top, the rich people, the people who are smart as fuck, obviously, they offer you a chance to join the Mordian Iron Guard. But you have to be perfect. You have to do things correctly. You have to be disciplined. And you have to devote your life to the Mordian Iron Guard. Now, that sounds like a really shitty deal, but here's the issue. They will take your family in to the giant spires that the rich people live in and guarantee your kids and your wives good food, good education, great everything. The best that life could ever fucking get. But here's the issue. Is that at any point, if you fuck up, let's say you were shown as not being disciplined enough. Let's say you were just deciding to take a day off. Well, they're going to kick you and your family out. Now, because I said that these guys operate as an Adeptus Arbites force, there's kind of an issue with that, being kicked out. So if you get kicked out into the public masses who you were policing, well, we already know what happens in prison if you were a cop who arrested most of the inmates. Imagine what it's like when you are released into a whole world where you would actually gun down civilians who just simply wanted to talk to the manager. That is the Mordian. So that's why, yes, you serve the Mordian Iron Guard. Yes, you are always going to be fed. You're always going to have a great, great life for your family. But you, personally, are living on a fucking knife's edge. You have to perform excellently and perfectly every fucking second. Or else, well, you and your family could be very fucked very quickly. Now, when I said that the whole world pretty much hates Mordian Iron Guard, I'm very serious about that. And the reason why is that Mordian Iron Guard are much like the Adeptus Arbites when it comes to their, well, riot suppression. So because the world has such shitty divisions between classes and because people just don't have any way of really, being happy, getting wealth, anything like that, they tend to riot. They tend to be pissed. They tend to break the rules and be criminals. Well, the Mordian solution to that is to march in parade formation. So, march, march, march. And they march with their guns down. And the whole time they march through the streets, they start unloading in disciplinary fire. So all of them fire at the same fucking time. And they're just unloading into any civilian that they see. This causes many deaths, but acceptable deaths. This also restores order. But more importantly, this causes more resentment. But at the same time, what the fuck are the people gonna do? They're not allowed guns, they're not allowed shit. And here they have these tyrannical oppressors who they could possibly join, but they have to be perfect soldiers in order to join them. So again, it's a very interesting society to live in. Suffice to say, Mordia, way back when, had an issue with this. Apparently, some Chaos Worshippers were there one day. And the Chaos Worshippers decided, you know what? I'm going to get the wealth that those rich people have, and I'm going to make myself a very, very nice living. Well, this didn't settle well with the Mordian Iron Guard. But the Mordian Iron Guard didn't have time to prepare for this, neither did they even know this was going to happen, until it was too late. Essentially, the Chaos Worshippers enacted a ritual where they summoned demons into the world. Oh boy, this could not possibly get worse. Well, it did. At first, the Mordian Iron Guard were astounded. They were surprised. But even surprised, their disciplinary training kept them in gear. They weren't falling back. They weren't fleeing. They weren't screaming, oh, run. Fucking demon just skull-fucked my child. No. They stood their ground, hooked up into bunkers, and dished out a lot of damage to the demons. But once the high command kind of started to get a grasp of the situation, they ordered all the Mordian Iron Guards to fall back to the capital. Fuck everybody. We need to defend right here and make this place a fucking kill zone. So they retreated from all the hive cities and retreated to the final city, the capital. Now, while they were doing this, the demons are still taking their time munching on the souls and the lives of the poor innocent civilians who are more or less screaming, running, and being set afire by the demons. This is enough time to buy the Mordians to start fortifying the city. They made everything a fucking trap. Everything was a bunker. Their bunkers were linked to bunkers, and behind those bunkers were more bunkers. They made everything right. They made it where if this line falls, the enemy's going to immediately be walked right into a kill zone. If that kill zone falls, there's another kill zone behind my kill zone. They made this perfect. Well, this bought them enough time. So while the days were going by, and of course, they got word out to the Imperium, well, a bunch of Imperial ships were up in orbit, and they were trying their hardest to break the spell. Because if they could break the spell, the demons would go away. Well, after days upon days of fighting, it looked like the Mordians were about to lose. They were fighting inside the palace of the world. So now their families are basically right behind them. So now they really have a lot to lose. They could lose right fucking now. Now, as far as the Chaos Forces may go, you may think, well, shit, demons are fucking deadly. Oh, don't worry, it gets much worse than that. It wasn't just demons. We're talking about Chaos Space Marines, too, added in this shit. Oh, boy. Chaos Space Marines, who are already better than Imperial Guardsmen, fighting Mordians? Yeah, this was definitely strange. But it was a lot of Death Guard, a lot of fucking Tzeentch worshippers, a lot of Khorne worshippers. You were seeing everything. Either way, Mordia held out. They actually held out really fucking well. And I've never seen this before with an Imperial Guard regiment, where they were caught on their asses and they actually survived. They kicked the forces of Chaos's asses so hard that they didn't come back for another few millennium. Now, the funny thing is that once the spell broke, the Chaos Space Marines didn't have demons anymore. And whatever demons were around were the greater demons, except their power was fading. This was a good time to take some nice revenge. Surprisingly, the only people left alive were just the Chaos Worshippers who started this ritual, and their fates, well, their fates weren't exactly pretty. But at the same time, this did send a message out to the Greater Imperium that the Mordian Iron Guard are a force that you damn well better respect. And this is what's earned the world its place in the Imperium, is that everyone wants to buy the Mordian Guard regiment's time to serve them in their battlefronts. Or maybe a governor just has a shitty fucking populace and decides, you know what? Because my PDF forces and Arbites unit aren't strong enough in taking out my pieces of shit civilians, I'm going to recruit those guys. Because those guys do not have any qualms about laying waste to a whole subsector of my fucking city. So besides that, that's been the Imperial Guard. Just know that as far as right now in current 40k lore, they actually lost their world. That's fucking unfortunate. To, again, Chaos. Because Chaos decided, you know what? You know what's worse than one Chaos invasion? 2 Chaos invasions, baby. But besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. The next lore video is going to be on the Blood Gorgons, because I know you guys requested that. And besides that, just subscribe if you didn't do it already. Please, I need the subscribers.